All right, it cut off. So I was talking about short-barreled rifles. If you're using any of those things because you've decided not to carry on your person, or you want a second weapon in your bag, for whatever reason you're carrying a firearm in your bag, you have a lot more options than if you're carrying it on your person. You're not going to wear like a Secret Service trench coat where they have there's 300-pound guys that are 6'7", but they look like they're like 400 pounds because they've got these huge trench coats. They've got the ballistic briefcases where they just unlock them and it flips open, and then it's a pretty crappy shield, but still a shield, right? And they've got like dual wielding MP5Ks underneath no, they've just got one. But MP5Ks underneath their trench coats and who knows what else, right? Yes, you could kind of do that, but no one's going to walk around wearing a trench coat. I'd be really impressed if there was a citizen who carried on their body like an MP5K or something like that. Some really small submachine gun-y thing. That'd be very impressive. No, so for whatever reason you're carrying a firearm in a backpack, you've got more options, right? It could be a handgun that's just like all the bars are filled, right? It's like the race car in a video game. Speed, power, weight, handling, nitrous, whatever. Like, it's filled all of them up to 10, right? It's suppressed. It's got the long barrel, the long sight radius, a nice optic, not a durable one, but one with a huge field of view, so the dot doesn't even jump out of the window with each shot. You can track it rise and fall with each, like a Delta Point Pro. You can track it rise and fall with the recoil of each round, like a Glock 34. So you got lots more weight. It's 9mm, so you've got the flatter trajectory. Still plenty capable rounds if you've got like 147 grain, 124 grain plus Ps with really big cavity hollow point, so it doesn't ricochet, so it doesn't go through the threat and hit a non-threat. Stuff like that. But right, it's heavier than a Glock 19 or a Glock 17, so you got less felt recoil. You got a Delta Point Pro with a big window, so the dot doesn't even jump out of the window, so you got way better ADS time, to use the video game term. You're gonna have way shorter splits. You can have like the 31 round magazine from the Glock 18, suppressed. So because you probably don't have time to put ear protection on, depending on what situation we're talking about. It's probably indoors because we're citizens, right? That's the last thing you want, is in one of those crazy situations, is just more stress. The blast of a firearm right next to people, especially you. It's a lot of hearing damage and stuff. And suppressors, I mean, you probably should still wear hearing protection if you're shooting supersonic through a suppressor. But in that sort of situation, it's a lot better than nothing, but it also doesn't matter. There's other things that are more important. Lost my train of thought. Oh, so if you're carrying in a bag, you've got lots of options, right? That's what I was talking about. So you have that handgun that's just maxed out with all the stats. You can have a submachine gun if you stopped learning about mechanical devices in the 1990s. You can have a submachine gun, except it has to be semi-auto, which defeats the whole purpose of a submachine gun. So whatever, it's up to you. Or you can have a short-barreled rifle, which is also illegal because 1936. But there's things you can do, right? You can pay the tax stamp, or, I mean, like I said, it's 10 January 23. So not anymore, but you used to be able to put to have it be a braced pistol, and then you'd be fine. But not anymore. That things are changing there. So that seems like the best option for not a handgun, or a PDW, like submachine gun handgun hybrid, like a stocked handgun, a braced handgun. Not anymore. Stocked handgun, which you'd have to register as an SBR. But something like that. Right, those are all good options. And then we were going to talk about PID, positive identification of the target. If you're running around with a handgun that cannot be easily just reholstered, once law enforcement arrives, they're not, and they're responding to a mass shooting situation, they're not going to ask questions. They're not going to be like, "Are you the mass shooter? You look a little bit civilian-y," because of course the mass shooter will definitely not look like a normal citizen. Yeah, they'll look just like you. So, right. So they're just going to shoot you. So how do you make them not shoot you? I alluded to one. Don't do something more than a handgun on your person, so you can, within a second, reholster it and make your hands visible so they don't perceive you as a threat. And then there's other things, other options that people talk about. So things I've heard is, if you have like we'll say a PDW, a sub gun, or a short barrel rifle as your bag gun because you don't want to carry on your person, or you have a second weapon or something like that. And so maybe you also have in there a small amount of like support equipment, so like a super slim chest rig, or an excuse me, or an active shooter little satchel bag thing, or your backpack itself has Velcro on it or something. You can stick something on there like, you could do, I don't know. This is where it gets tricky, because you can't put police, that's impersonating a police officer, that's a felony. They wouldn't shoot you until it was over, but then you'd go to jail. So, I don't know, like depending on where you live, you'd go to jail anyway. Obviously you shouldn't do it, but I don't know. We're just thinking. Citizen, I've heard people say they put citizen on there. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like that would make me like double take as an officer. I don't know. Not sure. Militia, definitely don't do that. I mean, that's part of the Constitution defines what the militia is. So that, it has a negative connotation now, but it didn't then. Before the military-industrial complex, it didn't have a negative connotation because that was a normal thing. That's how our national defense system worked. But that does now. Now that's like a right-wing terrorism. That's what that means to everyone now, is right-wing terrorism. So not that one. Security? I don't know. Maybe. I'm not sure if that would be illegal. I have no idea. I'm not the person to ask about that. I don't know. I'm just a stupid kid. But I don't see how that would be illegal. And you're technically not lying, right? I mean, it's true. And so they might just think you work at the mall, and then they don't realize you don't until afterward, and at that point, they haven't shot you. So, mission accomplished. I've heard like a big American flag, because mass shooters don't wear big American flag patches. Right? I think even like yeah, like left-wing extremist, like militant groups. I'm not an expert on them, but I haven't seen any American flags on their gear. They don't have any American flag patches on their kit. I think some of the right-wing groups do, but mostly not. Not so much with theirs either, honestly. So I don't know. It kind of depends. I feel like I see more of like their own flags and don't tread on me flags, Confederate flags. I don't know. Maybe some with those groups. So maybe big American flag patch. Maybe. But also a lot of law enforcement does that. So I don't know. So maybe and that one, it's not even there's no question about the legality of that like there is with security. I'm pretty sure that's fine. I mean, heck, you could have like a part-time job, like a jobbie, just going through the legal processes of licensing yourself as a security contractor or whatever, just so that you can receive training to make yourself better personally at doing that, and then you are legally security. You can say you have that kit for your job because your job is being good at defending innocent life because you're a father. So maybe the American flags, like I said, military and law enforcement wear American flags. Mass shooters don't wear American flags. Left-wing extremist militant groups, I think that's the right word, don't wear American flags. It's hit or miss with like the right-wing militant groups, but they also have kind of distinct kit. So if your kit doesn't look like theirs, right? So look up a bunch of videos and footage and pictures of those guys and make your kit not look like theirs. Right? So because they're all boomers, they have like M85, M81, M85. That old woodland pattern of camouflage. I don't remember what it's called. They've got like woodland kit, and they're all fat, and right. So like have like your little micro chest rig, or your little active shooter satchel, or your Molly Velcro backpack. Make it like gray or something. And like the excuse me. Like, and a lot of that really, what's it called? Asymmetrical warfare, unconventional warfare, citizen-y stuff doesn't really look militaristic either, because it's kind of not. It's more. Some of it does. I don't know. It doesn't look the same because they're all wearing like those right-wing militant groups are like wearing like full kit, camouflage patterns that don't work where they are because they're in like urban environments protesting or something. I don't know. And they're all wearing M85 Woodland or multicam. Multicam probably isn't bad in urban environments. Or, no, I don't see any of them in Marpat. There's a good argument for Marpat, right? Right, so don't wear camouflage patterns. have like gray stuff that looks very professional, citizen-y. Yeah, take good care of yourself, your image, cut your hair, shave or trim your beard. Don't have like the like the meth head Viking beard that those groups of people have. Right? Dress nice. Drunk Viking is kind of redundant, so I had to change it to meth head Viking. Right? Have a professional, civilian, good intention image, right? Like, I mean, this isn't a bad example. Short haircut, a little bit military-y haircut, so maybe that's not the best. But I look like kind of a goody two-shoes kid. Button shirt, decent, like nice jeans. Like, that's not bad, right? Then if I had like a nice, man, I hate to toot my own horn. If I've got like a professional businessy jacket, right, open, and there's a small gray chest rig in it with a big American flag patch, and I've got a small rifle, then they're going to see me from behind, and I don't know. Maybe limit it to a handgun. I don't know. But all good food for thought. All good things to think about. Yeah. Tell you what, we'll end again with, I rolled my eyes when I said again, with an interesting discussion on rifles. So, the more I shoot, the more I realize I suck at marksmanship. And everything, actually. The more I realize I suck. But marksmanship is kind of interesting, right? A defensive rifle, by my estimation, is something with would be like they call it an intermediate cartridge, but it's a really small rifle. It'd be something with a small caliber semi-automatic rifle or full auto. Probably not. No, probably just don't use it. It can have full auto, it doesn't matter. Yeah, I guess full auto. Small caliber rifle with high capacity magazine, or at least normal capacity magazines, but maybe you have a drum in it or something, or a 40 round magazine, or those are really long. Maybe you have a drum in it, but those are unreliable. I don't know. At least a standard capacity magazine. Of a small rifle caliber that is a lightweight firearm with intuitive manual of arms and ergonomics, low recoil, and an unmagnified like a red dot with a big field of view, right? The point is, you do everything possible to make it as easy to use, no matter the experience level. Of the user. So you make a firearm that's as easy to use as possible. The end, right? Something that people with as low an experience level as possible can still use. And if we're being honest, that means I probably still can't use it effectively. But you try, you do what you can. Right? So that probably looks like, for me, you can set this up tons of different ways. Some of this is debatable. I think generally that means it's an AR with a there's a police officer. And we're good. Oh, and it's 80 miles an hour anyway. So for me, that looks like an AR with a 14.5 inch barrel down to 11.5 inches if it's 5.56, or if it's 300 blackout, like eight or 9 inch barrel. Maybe suppressed if it's that 300 blackout. If it's got a shorter barrel, maybe a hand stop is necessary. Maybe and a weapon light. Maybe you have a vertical grip on it to use maybe a hand stop, something to kind of make that positioning of your non-dominant hand on the rifle to actuate the light or the pressure switch that the light's attached to more intuitive. I mean, you're getting more and more complex. Are you though? I mean, having a pressure pad at the 12 o'clock position on the handguard is super intuitive. Maybe, something like that. And then maybe it has backup iron sights, maybe it doesn't. That's kind of up to the person setting this up, the user. And then a red dot. Maybe you want something with an extra big field of view like an 8-Point Pro, or even better, an EOTech. Maybe not. Maybe you just get a budgety red dot. I mean, I guess an 8-Point Pro is in that category, but maybe you want to go a little bit less. Primary arms, whatever they offer, Sig Romeo, something like that. I don't know. I feel like 8-Point Pro is probably a better option, but I don't know. I'm just a dumb kid. And normal adjustable stock, maybe one that the user likes better. Same with the grip. Maybe it could be just an A2 grip with the little bump in between your middle and ring fingers. Or it could be a more intuitive or a more ergonomic grip that doesn't have that. That's a little bit more forward like this, because that's how human wrists work. Something like that. Maybe it can be 3-round burst or full auto in a perfect world. In a perfect world, you wouldn't need this firearm. But in a better world, 3-round burst or full auto. But that takes even more training, because then you have to click the safety 2 positions instead of just 1 position. Maybe semi-automatic is better. It's probably better. We'll just do semi-automatic. That's a defensive rifle, right? That's the defensive firearm. Handguns are awesome because they're smaller. You can have them on your person. But internal, external, internal, external, and terminal ballistics are all vastly inferior, and you can get superior internal, external, and terminal ballistics without sacrificing much in overpenetration, depending on the load you get. with the rifles I've talked about. But they're easier to retain if someone tries to take it from you. There's less recoil. You can have faster splits because there's 3 or 4 points of, really 4 points of contact. Stock, cheek, dominant hand, non-dominant hand. It holds more ammunition. Standard capacity magazines, we'll say for handguns, we'll say 17 rounds is a normal capacity magazine for a handgun. For rifles, it's 30, right? 25, 30, something like that. And then you can do extended handgun magazines, 20 or 31 or 33 or whatever. And you can do extended rifle magazines, 30 or like a 60 round drum. Lost my train of thought. Right, so more ammunition, less recoil, easier to handle, easier to retain it, easier to aim, more effective. It's better in every way. It's probably more expensive. The base firearm may not necessarily be more expensive, but you're going to spend $500 on an optic, $150 on a light or more, $50 on a sling, $20 on a hand stop or a vertical grip or whatever, $100 on backup sights. Like, it adds up. Or a lot less. You can get it for a lot less, but that's just getting like super grade A parts. That's a defensive rifle. I'm running out of memory card space. Yeah, I need to make this fast. That's a defensive rifle, right? That is some of my biggest issues with firearm legislation, is because all the things I just described is what's like being attacked most. But that is the most effective weapon for especially people especially people that are physically like weaker, less skilled, like the people that need protection more, right? I'm sure like minorities are more likely to need those things, because that's kind of what statistics are saying, right? That's the most defensive rifle. And a big tenet of that is defensive situations are harder because you can't plan for it, right? You don't know you are suddenly in a fight for your life, and I know this is dramatic. You don't know that you are suddenly in the fight for your life until it's already happening. You don't plan for it and load the magazines the night before and put all your kit on and like do burpees to make sure everything works and do some reloads to just test things out like military does before an operation, right? They can do all these things. Heck, they probably go on like a ruck run a couple times, like the days going up to a mission with all their kit, just to make sure everything's good, to test their physical ability with that kit, right? None of that can you do. It has to be able to respond at a moment's notice, loaded magazine. The magazine that's in the firearm is probably the only one you're ever going to use, right? So maybe that's an argument for a 60-round drum or a 40-round magazine, or at the very least a standard capacity magazine. But that's the stuff that firearm legislation disproportionately affects, which means it disproportionately is harmful to people trying to defend themselves. And I've got like 3 seconds left, so maybe if I can, dang it.